What's up, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Jose Show. Happy Tuesday, September 22nd. It is the second day of fall, and I am definitely here for it. But anywho, let's start off today's show talking about something pretty intense. So, it was just announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live is now back on the air starting tonight. But apparently, Nexstar Media Group Incorporated announced just today that it will continue to preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live despite Disney allowing the show to return to ABC. So, this is what was being said. We made a decision last week to preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live following what ABC referred to as Mr. Kimmel's ill-timed and insensitive comments at a critical time in our national discourse. We stand by that decision pending assurance that all parties are committed to fostering an environment of respectful, constructive dialogue in the markets we serve, the company said in a statement. So in the meantime, we note that Jimmy Kimmel Live will be available nationwide on multiple Disney-owned streaming products, while our stations will focus on continuing to produce local news and other programming relevant to the respective markets, Nexstar added. Okay, so apparently Nexstar owns 32 ABC affiliate stations. Sinclair Broadcast Group, which operates 30 ABC affiliates, announced Monday it would preempt the show. Okay, so this is really insane that there are going to be some ABC stations around this nation that are not going to be airing the Jimmy Kimmel Live show, all because of the fact that they are still really hurt about the fact that Jimmy Kimmel was using his own freedom of speech last week on his show about the whole entire Charlie Kirk assassination. Here is the thing. These people need to understand that freedom of speech is definitely important and freedom of speech is definitely protected in this nation. So therefore, they need to let Jimmy Kimmel be on the air all over the nation and be fair. We all, by the way, are dying to see Jimmy Kimmel back on air anyways because the man has a really good humor. He's really kind, and he, of course, has this thing where he is not afraid to say it like it is on the air. And I think it's really stupid, by the way, that all of this, by the way, I believe is all because of the President of the United States, because the President of the United States is not happy that Jimmy Kimmel Live got to be expressing about his people, which, by the way, Charlie Kirk was one of his people. And also, Jimmy Kimmel basically got to, expose Trump for the reaction that he made towards the whole entire Charlie Kirk assassination, because I believe I saw one video in the last episode of the Jimmy Kimmel Live show, like back in Wednesday of last week, where Jimmy Kimmel was showing how Trump was reacting to the whole entire Charlie Kirk assassination, and Trump did not react the way he was supposed to react. He acted in a really nonchalant way, I believe, and I think that is something that Trump got so upset about, and of course his people got so upset about, which, by the way, led to the whole entire suspension of the show. And by the way, his people also work for the FCC, they work for ABC, I believe, and they work for the Sinclair Broadcast Group and for Nexstar, I believe. That could also be the reason to why the show ended up off the air. Let's be realistic. If these people were liberals, if these people were all about understanding the freedom of speech, trust me, this show would still be on the air. And it's funny that these same people that got to put Jimmy Kimmel off the air are the same people that are all about freedom of speech, and they're all about freedom in America. But when a liberal like Jimmy Kimmel does it, it's not okay, because apparently they're talking so much smack about Donald Trump, and they're talking so much smack about the reaction that Donald Trump had towards Charlie Kirk's assassination. And by the way, Jimmy Kimmel didn't say anything bad about Charlie Kirk. He didn't go off and laugh at the assassination. He didn't go off and say anything evil about the assassination. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel was actually being respectful about the whole entire assassination. So I believe that these people that got to cancel Jimmy Kimmel are the people that definitely need to get their own damn mind straight. Okay, apparently I believe that it's okay if anybody from Fox News or anybody from any other Republican network were to go off and say something so bad about Democrats and about a bunch of other people, because apparently they're Republicans and those are Trump's people. But of course, if it's a Democrat, like I said, it's not okay. They deserve to be silenced. They deserve to be off the air, and that's it. What in the world are we going to here in America, ladies and gentlemen. This is just so darn scary because this just comes to show that we unfortunately can't say anything without getting in trouble or without getting silenced. And this is just one of these things where we need to just sit down and talk about the fact that we as people, we have rights here in America, especially because we are in the land of the free and we are not harming anybody. We're just being honest. We're just being realistic on what we are expressing. And that's how it is here in America. Okay, but anywho, I believe here that one way or the other here, I believe that Jimmy Kimmel is going to be back in those affiliates one way or the other, because I believe that if there's one thing that I believe is going to end up happening here is that somebody, I don't know, but somebody I believe behind ABC or Disney is going to go off and push these people from the Sinclair Broadcasting Group and push these people from the Nexstar Media to air the Jimmy Kimmel Live again, and they're gonna say, hey, well, you guys are gonna have to air this show again because what you guys are doing is incorrect, because at the end of the day, freedom of speech is really important, and at the end of the day, the ABC is already losing a bunch of money and losing a bunch of ratings because of what you guys are doing and pulling off Jimmy Kimmel from the air. So I believe what you guys are doing is you guys are actually harming the ABC/Disney company way more than you guys are helping the ABC/Disney company at all. Okay? And therefore, that could even cause these people that are canceling Jimmy Kimmel, by the way, to even lose their jobs and get fired because, like I said, they are just hurting the network. They're hurting the company. They're not doing any good at all. So I just think that this whole entire cancellation thing, even though Jimmy Kimmel is kind of back, is very stupid and it's very pointless. So anyways, Jimmy Kimmel, I cannot wait to hear you say your things tonight on the Jimmy Kimmel Live show on what you think about your suspension and on what you think about freedom of speech, because trust me, I believe that all of us deserve to hear what you went through throughout these past 4 days of you being suspended. And we also want to hear on your take on how important it is for us to, speak up and not be afraid to speak up on what we believe. And, also at the end of the day, be confident for the things that we get to say and not let anybody silence us, especially in a country like this. Okay? And I also cannot wait, and hopefully he'll address this, that Jimmy Kimmel will stand up towards the people that got to cancel him and be like, you know what, if you guys are going to be canceling me, then you guys are going to be losing more than I will, because you guys are nothing but losers that don't know anything about freedom of speech. I hope that Jimmy Kimmel gets to at least address something like that tonight, so that way he can actually put these people in their place, so that way these people can actually understand once and for all that Jimmy Kimmel is not somebody to be messing with. So anywho, yeah, Jimmy Kimmel, you got this. And I'm sure that if he were to go off and defend himself like this tonight, I'm pretty sure that there is no freaking way that he's going to get pulled off the air, because I believe that there is a bunch of people out and about that are in support of him saying all of these things, and that are in full support of him in general, just like a bunch of these people were also in support of Jimmy Kimmel. And by these people, I mean fans of Jimmy Kimmel. We're in full support of Jimmy Kimmel going back into the air. So guess what? Jimmy Kimmel is now back on the air, all thanks to all of that support, and also all thanks to the fact that somebody got to open their eyes behind the ABC doors and be like, you know what? We need to bring Jimmy Kimmel back. Even though, unfortunately, he's not fully back in all of the ABC channel affiliates around the nation. Okay, so anyways, Jimmy Kimmel, good luck to you tonight. You're amazing. All right, now on to the next topic. So there are some new statues erected in the National Mall in Washington, D.C. They show Trump and Epstein giddily frolicking together and holding hands, with the plaque announcing the new figures are in honor of Friendship Month, which falls in September apparently. So Apparently, the plaque additionally reads, "We celebrate the long-lasting bond between President Donald J. Trump and his closest friend Jeffrey Epstein." Trump didn't hold back when blasting those responsible for the statues, with the White House spokesperson telling TMZ liberals are free to waste their money however they see fit, but it's not news that Epstein knew Donald Trump because Donald Trump kicked Epstein out of his club for being a creep. Okay, so as we all know, the president has admitted he and the late sex offender were once friends. That is, until he heard his pal was up to no good with young females at Mar-a-Lago. Notably, he also said in the past he banned Jeffrey from his Florida property because he was hiring workers away from under him. So anywho, the White House spokesperson went on, Democrats, the media, and the organization that's wasting their money on this statue knew about Epstein and his victims for years and did nothing to help them, while President Trump was calling for transparency and is now delivering on it with thousands of pages of documents. Okay, so Trump's administration released a dump of documents related to Epstein back in February, though the material largely consisted of files already publicly available. The move drew criticism from both the left and right, and the public has continuously pressured 47 to cough up the rest of the files, largely because it's believed a list naming clients of Epstein exists, especially because Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed such a list was under review. So this is really insane if this statue actually exists, which I'm pretty sure it does. And I think it's also really scary because we're already seeing some really good bond there between Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and that statue, and that bond really looks really creepy, and that bond really looks disturbing in all levels. I feel like there is definitely something fishy behind that friendship, that's for sure, now that we are seeing that statue. And I've always known that there's something fishy even before the statue came into existence, but I believe that now I see it more in suspicion. And I honestly think that this is going to cause so much controversy, and it's going to cause so much to talk about, to the point that there's going to be further and further investigations in between this whole entire friendship that happened in between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, that we are going to be seeing, and we're going to be knowing a bunch of things that we have never even known in between that friendship, that's for sure. And I'm glad if that is going to end up being the case, but who knows if that's going to end up being the case, because we're already hearing that some people are already defending Trump and is saying that Trump is transparent and Trump is this and that, while Jeffrey was the one that was being the creep and being all of this other stuff. But we also need to admit that the friendship existed, and we also need to admit that there is a reason behind the statue was made in the first place. And I mean, I understand that just because you're friends with somebody that was a creep and that was a rapist and so forth, that doesn't matter. That doesn't automatically mean that you are that same person as well. That doesn't mean that you are, the creep and that you are the bad person just like your friend is. However, in this case, since we have noticed that Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were so close together and really nilly-willy together way back in the 90s, 2000s, and they were all about wanting to do stuff to a woman, and I believe that a letter even got exposed not so long ago where Trump was signing it, and I believe there was like a naked body of a woman on that letter towards Jeffrey Epstein, I believe on his birthday. And then I believe there was like these creepy weird conversations in between Jeffrey and Donald about women and about having sex and touching and this and that. That's already coming to show that we as people, we actually have the right to get suspicious about the whole entire friendship and question so many things, and also ask for an investigation, and also especially an investigation with the Epstein files, which unfortunately are still not under investigation, by the way. And it's because a lot of people, especially the people in the White House, are trying to cover up Trump because Trump is the president, and he's holy, he's an angel, supposedly, but we all know that that ain't the case. Behind the closed doors, we actually don't know what happened with that whole entire friendship, on what nasty things was going on in between that friendship, on what weird things, creepy things was going on in between that friendship, that maybe the both of them together were, I don't know, raping so many women to the point that so many women are, so traumatized, and so many women are already like, oh my God, well, who's next at this point, and so on forth. Like, that could be the case, but there's the cover up, unfortunately, and they want to be pointing fingers like, oh no, maybe it was this person, maybe it was that person, and that they were already, pointing fingers at Hillary Clinton. They were already pointing fingers at Bill Clinton. They were already pointing fingers at other politicians and other people, and to the whole entire Epstein case, because I think I remember that they got subpoenaed, I believe, for the whole entire Epstein case, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, I'm like, okay, well, why, if we have never even seen a friendship with the Clintons with Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that has never happened at all. And I definitely have never seen anything creepy, anything weird going on in between the Clintons and Epstein at all. So, yeah, this statue is definitely going to be one of the most historical statues in the history of America, since it's already in existence, already in a mall in Washington, D.C., and it's going to be remembered. And it's also going to be maybe the statue that's going to maybe hopefully expose Trump for his little connections with Jeffrey Epstein way back in the past. And maybe hopefully there will be a way to get Donald Trump in trouble, which unfortunately, I don't even think that's ever going to happen, because unfortunately the man has immunity since he is the president. But we'll see what happens next. We'll see. But anywho, on to the next topic. Now let's talk about Sean Diddy Combs. So Sean Diddy Combs is a great father and son who gives back to his community. At least that's what his family, friends, and exes are telling the judge who is set to decide his fate. So Diddy's legal team gave Judge Arun Subramanian a mountain of legal homework and a massive filing late Monday night. And the trove of documents includes more than 75 letters of support. The Bad Boy founder's mother, Janice Combs, his 6 eldest kids, and a handful of exes, including rapper Young Miami, spoke highly of Diddy and their letters to the judge in an effort to secure a lighter sentence next month following his conviction on prostitution charges. So, anyways, Christian Combs wrote, "No disrespect to you if you have kids, but I know my father is the best." He added, "I have seen my dad help thousands of people, give back millions of dollars, and show love to everyone, and never treat anyone foul. Please let my dad out of jail." So Young Miami says during the relationship he was loving, genuine, and supportive. She mentions going with Diddy to the Met Gala and says he's not a threat to the community. Diddy's mom mentioned her son's tough childhood and said she wants to see Diddy out sooner than later because her health is deteriorating, and she asked the judge to let him out so he can help some of her grandchildren heal from the loss of their mother, Kim Porter, who died in 2018. Okay, so anyways, Keisha Combs, Diddy's sister, said Diddy's nephew is having a difficult time without his uncle, as they were very close. She explained away a lot of the court testimony, saying Diddy's addictions clouded his judgment. Okay, so there is more and more letters after that, by the way, but this is what I have to say about this. This is really insane that there are letters suggesting that P. Diddy is a really good person and that he has done so much for the people, because the last thing that I would expect is for his family to be saying anything good about this horrible man that got to be accused of racketeering and got to be accused of prostitution, transportation, and got accused of many other horrible things, especially of abusing poor Cassie Ventura way back in 2016, which, by the way, there was proof of that. And now they're over here saying that he is an amazing person. I believe here that if this is actually true, that P. Diddy's family is saying that P. Diddy is a really good person and that P. Diddy has done so much for the people, then either the man has changed drastically throughout the years and turned out to be something horrible, or maybe the man is, I don't know, very weird. Like he has his good days and then he has his bad days where he is hurting other people. Like, I don't really understand this, if this is all the truth here. Because honestly, I think here that when a bad person is a bad person is a bad person. And I don't think that there's a way that they even have a really good side at all. And honestly, I think that P. Diddy's family, I mean, I'm pretty sure, want to see the man already out of prison. They want to see him happy. They want to see him, of course, with them again. But I believe that, when you're hurting other people, when you're doing the worst to people, you get your consequences. And you get them badly. Now, I think that they should be lucky that P. Diddy did not get more consequences than he should have, because I believe, like he should have, because I believe that P. Diddy deserved to be in prison for maybe, I don't know, 20 years, maybe 30 years probably, because I already heard about the human trafficking case. I already heard about the fact that he was raping women and so forth, and he was definitely taking so much advantage of all of those victims. And by the way, one of the victims even got to speak out in court about how they felt about P. Diddy being with them and so forth. And yet again, that didn't convince the courthouse, and yet they were like backing him up, especially the lawyers from P. Diddy were backing him up, and they were like, nah, he's not really what you guys are actually saying he is. You guys are actually just going off trying to deteriorate him. So we're going to protect him, and we're going to give him less time in prison, and we're going to give him less charges, so that way he can be back out again, living his life again, and maybe hurting people again. That's exactly what I definitely got to interpret all of this from, because honestly here, that's definitely, I believe, the case. And that's sad, because we are talking about the court system. We're talking about a place where there should actually be justice, and there is no justice. So anyways, may there be justice with the whole entire P. Diddy case, hopefully in the near future. May there be, maybe, I don't know, that one person that will hopefully pop up out of nowhere and be like, you know what, y'all need to actually either reactivate the trial, or you guys maybe need to have another trial with this man and maybe give this man more punishment than he already has, because guess what, he's actually what these victims are already saying he is to be. And I myself went through a horrible situation with the man as well. So that's exactly the reason to why I feel like in this whole entire case, maybe and hopefully there will be that one person that will screw up P. Diddy. But let's see what happens. Okay, now on to the next topic. Now let's talk about Sabrina Carpenter. So fans adore Sabrina Carpenter for her bold lyrics, shameless self-expression, and carefree sense of humor. And now she's revealing what authenticity means to her as an ever-evolving artist. So apparently, Sabrina sat down with Vogue Italy for a no-holds-barred interview released Tuesday, and she says she's in a period of introspection and focus on authentically creating for the present moment and current feelings, knowing she may change her mind about something in a month from now. Okay, so while her song lyrics seem like they were pulled right from her personal diary, Sabrina tells Vogue authenticity isn't necessarily pulling back the curtain on every detail of her life, but knowing when to do so. So the espresso hit maker gives an example of switching between a performer and her whole self on stage, explaining my shows can sort of feel like I'm playing a character, but the second that I'm speaking to the audience, I'm speaking as myself, what I did that day and how I feel that day and the moment. Those are the moments that I've kept to say for me. Okay, so she's been able to continue to mold her perspective through journaling and songwriting and also notes. Traveling overseas has been a huge eye-opener for her. She says, you learn more about life in a 20-minute conversation with someone from Italy than in 20 years in the US. So furthermore, her authenticity continues to be enriched by her friends, family, and team. She explains, they're the ones who manage my crazy mind. It's the only way I can stay honest in a world where it's so easy not to be. This is really authentic of Sabrina Carpenter to be revealing all of this, because she's actually kind of throwing some shade at the United States of America here by saying that you can actually know somebody way better in Italy than you can here in America. But she's just being realistic here, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I believe that the more that she is realistic, the more that she's going to gain fans, because if there's one thing that many people like are authentic people. And I believe that Sabrina is so brave and she's such a kind human being that she has really done so well, not just with her own persona throughout the years, but also with her own career throughout the years as a singer, as an actress, especially growing up on Disney Channel. And it really makes me happy by the way that she is still in that path and that she hasn't gone down to the path of negativity where she has done drugs, where she has done a bunch of other stupid stuff like, other stars have done in the past. No. And I'm so glad too that she is, basically revealing to all of us that basically she's like finding herself in her own career still. And she's still, speaking to herself on what to do with her own career in order to evolve more as an artist. So that way she can be able to impress not just herself, but also her fans. And she can, basically grow as an artist and grow so much in her own life. And what really makes me happy is that she is, finding a way to be very artistic, very mature in very other ways in order to really evolve so much with her own career, which is definitely the key to having her own success with her own career, which by the way, she already has had all of that success with her own career, but she wants to have it even more. That's basically what she's trying to say here. So anyways, that's another good thing about Sabrina. And then what really makes me happy too is that she is also really honest and realistic with her own music, like with her recent albums like Short and Sweet, for example. And then of course her recent album that she just released not so long ago, she was also realistic with that album, and she was, just throwing off the story tells, throwing off the love insecurities, throwing off everything that she has gone through, so that way people can be able to understand her more than just sit there and be like, okay, well, it's Sabrina, she's had it easy, she's whatever, and it's all right. No, it's like basically there is like a close bond going on here with Sabrina and the fans that are listening to her music and that are also listening to her interviews, just like with Vogue Italy, for example, and many of the other interviews that Sabrina has had recently and in the past. So that's amazing in all levels that this is going on, and that is the first thing that all of us want to hear from Sabrina Carpenter. Okay, so Sabrina, you just keep on being authentic. You keep on being you. You are doing amazing, girl. We love you. All right, now that is it for today's show, ladies and gentlemen. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's lovely episode of The Jose Show. Till next time, and peace.